Imagine being 3 times richer than Jeff Bezos, wielding such power that the U.S. government had to create special laws just to control your company. This is the story of John D. Rockefeller. At the peak of his career, his fortune amounted to 1.5% of the entire U.S. economy. That's roughly $280 billion in today's money. So, what was the secret behind this incredible wealth? The answer, of course, was his company, Standard Oil. During a massive boom in oil demand, Standard Oil controlled 90% of America's refineries and pipelines. Typically, only about 10% of a great fortune remains by the third generation. Yet the Rockefeller family remains one of the world's wealthiest and most powerful. While most of their wealth was acquired legally, legal does not always mean ethical. This is the story of the man who ruled the world a century before the tech and finance giants. John was born in 1839 in a small New York town. He was an ordinary child from an unremarkable background. Few would have predicted he would become one of America's most influential figures. His father, William Avery Rockefeller, was far from a good role model. William was a con man and a self-proclaimed doctor who sold homemade elixirs. He was vain and desperate to appear successful. Rumors even swirled about his involvement in a horse theft ring. In short, he was a highly dubious character. The family moved frequently, finally settling in Cleveland, Ohio in 1857. Cleveland would offer John opportunities he could never have found in the established Eastern markets. He grew up like a typical country boy. He attended school for a few months a year. The rest of his time was spent working, playing, and tending to chores. No one would have looked twice at him. He was utterly ordinary. The only trait people noticed was that he was unusually quiet and introverted for his age. His first job was equally unimpressive. He left high school for a low-wage job as an assistant bookkeeper. He earned just 50 cents a day, but he had a vision and a plan. He saved every penny from his job. He then borrowed money from his shady father. With his savings and this loan, John took his first step into the business world in 1859. He founded a commodity commission firm called Clark and Rockefeller. This was a brilliant move. America's oil industry was on the verge of exploding. Cleveland, with its proximity to the Pennsylvania oil fields, was becoming a refining hub. By 1863, Rockefeller and his partners had saved enough capital to open their own refinery. You might think Rockefeller and his partner were set to write a great success story together. But our story doesn't go that way. Even at that young age, John Rockefeller was ruthless. Just 2 years after founding the company, he forced his partner out. He bought his shares and formed a new company with a chemist named Samuel Andrews. He needed more capital, so he approached the millionaire Stephen Harkness. Harkness agreed to invest $100,000 as a silent partner, but there was one condition. John had to take on Harkness's relative Henry Flagler as a partner. This proved to be a masterstroke. Flagler's organizational skills perfectly complemented Rockefeller's strategic vision. Finally, the true partnership that would pave the way for his empire was formed. By 1870, Rockefeller had become a powerful young man. He was counted among Ohio's elite, but that wasn't enough for him. He wanted more. At just 31 years old, he founded the company that would make him unbelievably wealthy. It was called Standard Oil. The company's tactics were ruthless, and John ran it relentlessly. His strategy differed from his competitors. His new company focused on oil refining. Refining had more stable costs than oil exploration. Rockefeller's obsession with cost saving was well known, but his ambition went beyond mere efficiency. He wanted total dominance of the market. To achieve this, he made huge investments in research and development. He aggressively hired the brightest minds. He put them in laboratories that worked like an iron-fisted profit machine. Standard Oil consolidated its workforce in-house. It aggressively expanded its search for markets for refinery byproducts. It even bought oil fields others considered worthless. For instance, it acquired fields in Ohio known to contain sour crude. This oil was deemed unusable due to impurities, but Rockefeller knew that enough money could solve any problem. He turned to his well-established research team, and they developed a method to remove the impurities. They turned what was once waste into massive profit. This approach became a hallmark of Rockefeller's rise. However, this wasn't the only story behind his success. He wanted to rule the market in the literal sense. He perfected the monopoly. He rapidly bought out smaller companies to expand his own empire. This strategy would forever shape American capitalism. In just the first 3 months of 1872, Rockefeller took action. He either bought, shut down, or bankrupted 22 of his 26 rivals in Cleveland. He was merciless in his approach. He claimed to offer fair market prices to struggling competitors. But the truth was different. Standard Oil's secret tactics were driving them to the brink of bankruptcy. Standard Oil's massive scale gave Rockefeller an unprecedented advantage. He negotiated secret rebates with railroad companies. He guaranteed 60 wagon loads of oil shipments per day. These deals drastically reduced his shipping costs. His rivals couldn't compete on such favorable terms. Things could get even worse. Rockefeller's influence expanded further when he backed the Southern Improvement Company. This was a blatant plan to fix shipping costs. But public opinion was not on his side. Public outrage quickly shelved the proposal. Despite his ability to influence politicians, Rockefeller learned a lesson. He learned that even the most powerful merchant could not overcome the power of a united public, and the public did not like him. His oil empire was notorious. It was compared to an octopus. Its tentacles reached not only the oil industry, but also steel, copper, and shipping. They reached state buildings and even the highest offices of the U.S. government. Though he didn't have the public's love, he still dominated. By the late 1880s, Standard Oil's dominance was nearly complete. It controlled 90% of American refineries. What John didn't realize then was that his sunny days were limited. This overwhelming monopoly created intense pressure on politicians. The Southern Improvement Company scandal added to the fire. Politicians faced the threat of not being reelected. They finally began passing antitrust laws. They banned railroad rebates. Rockefeller's policy of avoiding the press also backfired. It encouraged journalists to investigate Standard Oil more deeply. They exposed its secret tactics to a wider audience. Public scrutiny and legal challenges continued to intensify. In 1911, the Supreme Court made a landmark ruling. It ruled that Standard Oil violated the Sherman Antitrust Act. This resulted in the company being broken up into 34 independent entities. Rockefeller was finally forced to retire from day-to-day operations at the age of 56. He remained as a figurehead president of the company. Ironically, this breakup was a blessing for Rockefeller. The intense pressure of managing such a vast empire had taken a toll on his health. Think of an ordinary man in his mid-50s. Now consider how people describe Rockefeller at that age. Journalist Ida Tarbell described him as one of the world's saddest objects. She noted that alopecia had left him completely hairless and pale. Tarbell couldn't help but say that this physical change seemed like a symbol of the evil he had done. We need to speculate a bit here. The ruthless way he conducted his business played a role in his declining health. Putting many people out of work played a role. Mercilessly destroying anything in his path played a role. But this was also a turning point. At this stage, we notice a shift in his mindset. He began to focus on something very different, philanthropy. This change marked the beginning of a new legacy. It led to the creation of the Rockefeller Foundation. Established in 1913, the foundation represented a transformative shift. It was built on a significant endowment. It focused on 3 main areas: public health, education, and scientific research. Rockefeller's commitment to public health was particularly profound. His financial support helped establish the University of Chicago. It helped found the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research. This funding played a crucial role in developing vaccines. It helped fight diseases like meningitis and yellow fever. It also revolutionized medical education in the United States. It even founded China's first modern medical school. Having grown up in a poorer part of the country, Rockefeller fought hard for better public health. He founded schools of public health at Johns Hopkins University and at Harvard University. He also helped launch nationwide and global health campaigns. These campaigns targeted diseases like hookworm, malaria, and typhus. His commitment laid the groundwork for a more strategic approach. Instead of making countless small donations, Rockefeller preferred significant contributions. He gave it to institutions with high potential. He believed in addressing root causes and seeking lasting solutions. Soon the potential for solutions extended far beyond immediate health needs. The Rockefeller Foundation was a key funder of the Green Revolution. This movement vastly increased agricultural productivity in the developing world. It is said to have saved the lives of nearly 1 billion people. For many years, the foundation distributed more foreign aid than the entire U.S. government. In fact, he gave away so much of his wealth that he could leave only a small portion to his heirs. In 1912, Rockefeller's wealth was nearly $900 million. But when he died, his estate was worth just $26 million. This demonstrates his commitment to philanthropy. All that said, were all these contributions made from good intentions? I think the answer is a bit more complex. There could be several reasons for this. Tax deductions, polishing a dark history, building a legacy beyond money. We can never fully examine the minds of historical figures. All we can do is speculate based on the evidence. But at the end of the day, we cannot deny the benefits that came from the Rockefeller Foundation. More than a century later, the Rockefeller family remains a powerful presence. According to Forbes, they have a combined net worth of $10.3 billion. Some estimate their wealth could be even higher. Not only that, the family has continued to produce several millionaires and even billionaires. One of the most prominent descendants was David Rockefeller. At 101, he was the world's oldest billionaire. When he died in 2017, his net worth was approximately $3.3 billion. Their influence is still felt in the oil industry. Yes, Standard Oil was broken into multiple companies. However, many of today's major oil companies trace their roots back to Standard Oil. Companies like BP, Exxon, Mobil, Phillips, and Chevron. The family didn't completely divest from oil markets until 2016. They sold all their investments in fossil fuel companies. They claimed it was for ethical reasons. So, what is the secret to their lasting wealth? The answer lies in their strategic approach to wealth preservation. The Rockefellers pioneered the concept of the family office. This is a full-service unit that manages all aspects of the family's wealth. At the center of their strategies are irrevocable trusts. These trusts cannot be easily altered by the beneficiaries. They protect assets from taxes, lawsuits, and creditors. Additionally, the Rockefellers use a strategy called the waterfall concept. It uses tax-exempt life insurance policies. This defers taxes on generational wealth transfers indefinitely. Let's give an example. Suppose your grandparents take out a life insurance policy for each grandchild. As long as they own the policies, they can use the funds. After their deaths, ownership is transferred to the grandchildren. The grandchildren can then benefit from the income, and there are likely other measures used by the wealthy that are not publicly known. But it wasn't just their wealth that proved permanent. Their influence in U.S. politics is also staggering. In fact, 2014 was the first year since 1950 without a Rockefeller in high office. Many family members served as senators and governors for decades. Furthermore, many high-level politicians married into the family. It's also unsurprising that the Rockefeller Foundation was used as a political tool. Its work sometimes shifted towards America's foreign policy. For example, its involvement in post-war France helped reduce the influence of communism. It played a role in influencing France's economic and educational policies. This ensured France remained firmly within America's sphere of influence. Today, the Rockefeller Foundation continues to shape global policies. It works alongside other major philanthropic organizations. Its initiatives span from health and agriculture to international partnerships. These often align with market-centric interests. Through strategic positioning, the family maintains an impressive presence. They shape both domestic and international policies. Critics argue that such efforts often undermine international organizations. They claim these foundations corrupt global development strategies. They shift them towards interest-based solutions. Some might even say their approach is borderline predatory. They have faced accusations of placing their staff within international organizations. This gives them privileged access to elites. This strategy led to a proliferation of global partnerships. Critics say these initiatives can undermine public health development efforts. They do this to increase their own influence. So, yes, as I said before, philanthropy can often stem from self-preservation. John D. Rockefeller was a man who masterfully manipulated the system. He ruthlessly exploited every opportunity within the rules. He did not hesitate to influence those rules when they no longer suited his ambitions. His philanthropy reshaped education, science, and public health. It left a lasting positive impact. However, we must view his legacy with some skepticism. We must acknowledge the moral compromises behind his wealth. John Rockefeller's contributions undoubtedly improved many lives, but they were built on the back of a system he often manipulated to his advantage. He is a complex figure. He embodies both the darker and brighter sides of American capitalism.